Let's say someone said to you, it's time to make a cold call.
What would likely be your response?
You'd probably cringe.
That's right. For most of us, the thought of making another cold call is daunting.
Even if we're an extrovert and love being around people, it can still be tough.
Why the fear? It's pretty simple. We don't like being rejected.
And what if they say, no, I'm not interested? What do I say in response?
No matter how you slice it, cold calling just isn't fun.
Unless you have the right strategy.
This week's book is all about improving your cold call confidence.
It's easier than you think and mostly about being proactive, decisive, and focused.
Let's jump right in here in Stephan Schiffman's book, Cold Calling Techniques That Really Work.
Welcome back. You're listening to Motivation Minute, where we unravel the timeless truths in that stack of books you don't have time to read so that you don't have to. So, Jiraiya, before we get started, I think we should feature a review that just came up this week. What do you say?
Yeah.
All right, so there's this guy who says, I found this podcast through some other ones that I was listening to. I immediately liked the way that the two hosts would speak directly to the key concepts in the books that they were discussing. They highlight the main concepts and put them out very plainly. However, they don't seem to lose the unpacking side of things. By that I mean, they're still good discussing the concepts and digging deeper that happens around them. This helps those concepts get fleshed out for us listeners. I've listened to a few episodes now, and that seems to be a pattern. Today I shared episode 50 with somebody I think could really benefit from the content like I did. Thank you for what you're doing. This is a really wonderful resource.
Wow.
So that's a shout out to Andy Ferris. Thank you so much for that wonderful review. That is super encouraging for us to hear that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it was very encouraging for me to read that. That means a lot.
And it's kind of like the book this week, Cold Calling Techniques, because when you get stuck in a zone where, you know, it's just Jiraiya and me talking, and now we have a special guest this episode, but if it's just the two of us, we lose sight of the goal sometimes. So to get that kind of feedback is awesome. So if you haven't left a review yet, we'd love it if you did.
Definitely. And speaking of the guest, today we have Andrew Smith again for the 8th time? No,
No, not quite. Not quite the 8th time.
The 3rd time, right? Or 4th?
A very special returning guest.
Yeah, 3rd time I think.
Okay. Andrew's got a rustic furniture business where he builds custom furniture. It's extremely good quality furniture. It's beautiful. And you've used some of the techniques in this book that we're going to talk today.
Actually, you recommended it.
Yeah, I guess I did recommend it. Yeah, it's one of those books that I knew I needed to read, basically because I Googled best books in business to read.
Nice. Yeah,
and it came up.
I was watching a YouTube video of a guy talking about the book, and he said it's been around or he read it 20 years ago and used it throughout his business.
Right. Yeah, this book is old. I know that.
We should jump maybe right into like what the main point is. And I got like my number one takeaway out of the whole book was, you know, every time you get a no when you give a cold call to someone, it's actually a yes in disguise. Like the fact that you're making the call to them is one step closer to a sale, even if it's not them, it's still worth something to pick up the phone.
So the concept of failing for the purpose of succeeding, it never quite hit me until I read this book. And I loved how the author brought out the system of cold calling, not just how to do it or what to do, but actually the numbers game, basically, of if I make this many calls, I'm going to hit this many sales and I'm going to fail this many times. And like, hallelujah, I failed 50 times.
Right. Like I loved how he would like cheer with every failure because it's almost a success because he knows his numbers.
Right. And you have to think about when you get a cold call, when someone calls you and they call me every day. Can I give you a business loan? Blah, blah, blah. Hi, I'm so-and-so with bank of so-and-so. I want to give you a business loan, blah, blah, blah. And I hang up on them. I don't really feel bad anymore. I used to. But
Yeah.
But you have to know that you are a success to them because you're one of their failures, one failure closer to someone actually getting a loan over the phone.
Right.
Yeah. I've heard so many people say that cold calling doesn't work or it doesn't work on me, but the reason they're still doing it is because it does work. That's why you still get tons of people cold calling.
You know, one of the things I liked in this book was it wasn't just about getting the yes from them, but It was, what is that yes? Well, the book was saying it's an appointment. That's the only next step. You're not trying to get them to the sale right away. There's a whole process you go through.
So Andrew, you actually you've actually closed a really good deal or through cold calling at once, but how many times did you have to make a call before you actually closed the deal?
Actually, closing the deal for me was that appointment that Spencer was talking about. And that appointment led to a fairly good account. So we started a cold call campaign probably 6 months ago and actually hired someone to do it. And they spent a lot of time and dedicated a lot of time to recording, how the conversation went. And we kept a chart of, interested,
cool.
Not interested.
Wow.
We actually use the app Trello, I believe.
Yeah.
With boards, and we have
Right.
a pretty intricate
Moving people along.
Yeah, we have a pretty intricate board system of where they're at, and we come across a lot of gatekeepers, especially in my industry. I'm not necessarily going down the white pages calling every Joe Schmo on the list,
Asking if they want a cabinet.
asking if they need new cabinets, or asking if they want to upgrade their furniture. Not really doing that. So we're actually calling retailers and different dealers across the region, and a lot of those companies are corporately run. And you call a local office, a secretary answers the phone, and you get shut down almost immediately. And I actually had to call. I called of this one business. I called 3 or 4 different locations until I found a secretary that would actually let me talk to their manager.
Wow.
And the manager actually gave me the number for the corporate office.
Wow.
And I was able to call them. So it took 3. It was probably 3 failures with gatekeepers to get through just to the next level of.
Right. And then you're just at another gate.
Exactly.
With corporate.
Yeah. So that's kind of a fun deal. I mean, you actually, it becomes sort of a thrilling experience when you know that there's another option.
Yeah.
They don't just shut you down. There's 40 different locations you can call.
That's crazy.
Right.
What's another technique to get past some of the gatekeepers? I think I saw in the book it said something about using a relation or personal connections, or if you know the person's name, or somehow can get that.
Exactly. Now, this is something we took good notes of, the names of the owners. If you can get on the website and do some research before you call. Now, this is business to business. I don't know how it would work if you're calling individuals, but business to business, if you can get on their website and find the owner's name and read the about page, read the entire about page, and find out, when they started, how they started, where they came from, find some sort of connection.
That's a lot.
And you can call and talk to the secretary. Hey, is, James, the owner, in? Oh, he's not. And how do you know him? Oh, I don't, you're not going to lie, to the gatekeeper necessarily, but you can kind of add that personal touch, like, hey, I'm not just calling to make a sale. I'm calling because I want to start relationship.
Yeah.
And usually it's beneficial for both people. I mean, I literally am calling to help them make more money.
Wow.
So if I can communicate that in a relational and non-abrasive way, that, hey, I'm here to actually help you make more money, it comes across pretty well.
So your usual cold caller comes across like with a win-lose proposition, it seems like. But when you're bringing a win-win, you have to find a way to differentiate yourself, it sounds like.
Right. And I think that's where the appointment comes in. You're not trying to make a sale like send me money now on the phone. You're saying, hey, can I meet with you and give you some samples, give you some free samples? I mean, they can't really say no. I mean,
right. And in person is a whole different story than when you're on the phone, because they feel like they have a relationship with you.
Sure.
Well, what you said about you're actually there to help them make more money, that's exactly what we talked about in the last episode, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. In the business, the basic concept was always talk about why you're doing what you're doing, or what the goal is and what it achieves, not what you're selling. If you're just calling somebody and you just say, hey, I build custom furniture in Montana, would you like to buy some? that's not very compelling. It's if you tell them, hey, you communicate in a way that lets them know that your product is gonna be able to sell very good, and they're gonna sell it to their customers, which is gonna make them money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can communicate it in a way that's beyond just, hi, would you like to buy something?
Exactly. I've heard that if you go into it as if it was an interview process and you're the interviewee. No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
You're the one interviewing them.
Okay.
You are looking for
You get yourself
someone.
in their shoes.
You are the one looking for a good fit.
Uh-huh.
You're asking them, are you a good fit for me? Because I'm ready to partner with someone, and I know this is going to do well, and I don't know if you're a good fit for me or not. If you go in kind of with that interviewing technique, like, yeah, we're kind of looking for someone to partner with that
lines up with our mission,
our mission. Say things like values, and
right.
We love your storefront. We think everything you're doing in your business lines up with what we want to do and who we want to partner with. And then they kind of feel like, oh, this
they
might
must
be more
good.
important than...
Interesting.
It's like you're in it for them.
Yeah, exactly. Like I might benefit from this partnership, or
Yeah, exactly. And it's like coming from a place of like abundance. Like, oh, it makes it sound like, oh, they must be doing good. It's not like coming in place from like need, where
exactly.
Please give me something needy. That doesn't work to sell at all. Wow, that's really interesting when you try to approach it like you're there to help them, or they can benefit from you.
Right.
How do you handle it if they're indecisive? Do you get to the point where you can tip them over the edge, or if they're indecisive, is it just harder to work with them and you kind of put them on the back burner until they can decide and make up their mind?
I think the main answers that I get are no, we have large wholesale contracts, or yes, bring by samples. Or people say they're interested, and I guarantee they are too busy to call back.
Okay. Uh-huh. I can see that.
I have someone in mind right now who I know they would do well with my product, and they know it too. But they're expanding. They just opened up another store, and I know that the owner personally is got to be swamped.
Yeah.
So I know that if I showed up with 10 bar stools, showed up at her door and said, hey, I know you're busy. I thought I'd just bring these by. I bet there would be a sale there, just because I know they're busy. So it's usually a no, we really can't do it. We've got contracts. Yes, or this interested, but I'm way too busy to think about you type thing.
Right.
I've noticed that people, even if they're interested in something, they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. We're really interested. Give me your contact information. And then you never hear from them again because, they're too busy, or a lot of times people are interested, but they just they forget about it. They don't have time to call you back. I know I'll do that sometimes. And so I think a big part of it is following up. Like you have to remember, write it down, schedule to follow up with them multiple times, and right?
Yeah, it's kind of like at every stage you always have the follow-up. So it's like the appointment the first time. Then it's like either the next appointment or how you're going to execute that sale, or like you always have a next step in order, or else, you were saying, Andrew, thinking in their shoes. So it's like put yourself in their mind, what's next step would be best for them, and then offer that to them as your next thing so that it doesn't just drop off.
And the thing about following up is you absolutely have to do it. If you are too busy to follow up, you are losing money. Honestly.
Yeah.
I think that if you choose to not follow up, you've wasted your cold call for one, and if you told them you were going to follow up and you don't, you've completely, lost their trust 100%.
Yeah, you have to show that you're interested.
Right.
It's a two-way street because you have to take the effort to call them. Well, they have to take the effort to pick up the phone, and then you have to take the effort to say, I'm going to follow up when we have a next step or after we've talked. It's not just, I'll send out a bunch of random calls and then sit there and wait for them to come back.
Right. And the mistake I made early on in business is that I got my business name set up. I got my shop set up. I was 100% ready to do work, do business. And I just sat by the phone and waited for people to call. I was like, man, nobody's calling. Nobody wants me. Nobody wants what I have to offer. I have all these cool things to offer. And nobody.
That's
wants
so not true, but it's just the order of
exactly.
steps.
How do they know to call you? And this book opened my mind to sales. Sales is absolute number one. You tank without sales. You can have a beautiful, 100% up-to-date shop with $100,000 worth of tools, and you can tank because you don't make any sales.
That is crazy. It's so true.
Yeah, that's the same problem I've had. Is when I first started my business, I spent probably a week or 2 weeks or something on just making the logo. Because logos are important, but I spent so much time on that. I spent like weeks building a website. When honestly, the only thing that really makes you money is sales, is calling people and making a sale. And it's like, but I hate doing it. It's like, I have to call a bunch of people, even if they're relatively easy calls, then I still don't like to. I don't know. It's just, I guess naturally we want to do what's fun and easy.
Right. And you have to get it in your mind that you need them, but you actually want to convince them that they need you. So what you actually have to do is you have to need them to need you.
Yeah,
and
that's
when
so true.
When you understand that, when you make it impossible using price points and perks and whatever it takes, but when you make it impossible for them to choose
that
anything
they don't
other
need
than,
you.
Yeah, anything other than yes. Hello, sales.
You can
right?
If you can make it an offer so good they can't refuse, like literally.
The thing about cold calling that I like is that I am 100% in control of how my business comes across to their business or to the
because they have no idea who you are.
Exactly. And with like say a paid Facebook ad or even a Google ad campaign, you get that, but it's not personal. It's not quite that connection. You can't go wrong with starting to cold call. If you fail 100 times, think about how much better you are at communicating what your company actually does. The first call I made, I was like, wait, what do I do? I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do this. Yeah, I can do that.
Well, it pretty much reiterates a lot of the books we've been reading about failure, like how with every failure, you got to celebrate it because it's the next thing towards success. It's the same thing just with cold calling, because you could easily stop cold calling because you failed once, but you could stop playing violin because you couldn't learn the right way the first time. Like, you have to keep doing it and keep trying. And that's the key with cold calling.
I think another thing is knowing your numbers. In the book, they really hammer down, you've got to keep track of what you're doing. Otherwise, you have no idea where you've been and you don't know what it takes to get where you want to go. And I've noticed that not only in the marketing, the cold calling, the contacts, but also in the shop, in production management, in inventory management, in time management, everything. You've got to be able to record. And I believe the E-Myth, Michael Gerber in the E-Myth has a chapter on, or maybe a whole section on quantification. You absolutely have to quantify everything. If you create 10 pounds of sawdust in a day, who weighs their sawdust? But,
who cares?
That's one way you can have a baseline for down the road.
How much production you did.
How much production is going
true.
on. Honestly, how much sawdust is being made.
So
and who cares about sawdust? But, I would probably look at the bank. But
that's a cool idea.
Yeah. Well, you said you recorded the calls, like with a recorder?
I did not record the calls.
Because that was the thing in the book. It said you should record your phone calls when you do cold calling, so that you can listen to it and you can, because you find out that you say a lot of things or filler words or just things that you didn't even realize you were saying. And
right.
Or just start a podcast and start editing your own voice.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Sounds miserable. When the person that helped me do the cold calling started, I actually listened to the first couple calls they made, just so I could, trust them and then also critique a little bit constructively. Yeah. And then they watched me make a call. And I'm not a professional, I screwed up in that call even, and I think it was good that that I actually messed up a little bit, just so that they could feel more empowered.
Like failure's acceptable in some cases.
A little bit more courage, and that if they fail, whatever. I mean, that's sort of the owner. But the one thing they noticed is that on a call, my voice goes higher, like a high pitch, like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, and it sounds funny. And then once I get into the call and like once I get relaxed a little bit, my voice goes a little bit lower. Yeah, hey, yep, that sounds good. But so
and you'd never pick that up without someone listening.
And that's embarrassing.
You never know. Yeah, I've noticed that I talk really fast sometimes, or when I'm nervous or in a call, and you don't even notice that you're talking fast or barely. It's unless someone tells you or something.
Right.
I don't know. Wow.
So that was an excellent episode, and with that, we'll call it a wrap for episode 52. We've been talking about 52 for so long, Jiraiya. Going out, we're like, we want to read 52 books this year. Now, I have to say, we've read 51 books. One of those episodes was not a book. But next episode will officially be 52 books. But it's episode 52, and we had a very special guest on 52. So thanks for coming on, Andrew.
Oh, it was awesome to be here. I didn't realize that it was number 52, and I'm just really proud of you guys, and I love that you've stuck with it and made this a commitment.
Thank you, Andrew. That means a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
It's crazy to think about how many episodes we have now. I remember when we had 7 episodes, and we were already 2.5 months in with only 7 episodes.
Yeah.
It was like...
It felt so slow.
Or that's 1.5 months. But it takes forever if you just want to... but in a year, that's 50.
Yeah. Remember to check out Andrew on his website. You've got ProRustics.com, is that right?
Yes, that's right. It's ProRustics.com, and you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. We like to keep Instagram pretty updated with shop updates, what we're doing in the moment, and some of our products.
Yeah.
And that's at ProRustics, right?
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, check his website and his Instagram out. He'd love that. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys on next week for our next episode. So until then, we'll see ya.